I'd like to make a multi-celebrity magazine feature film type of thing about the world that we cannot tell what's real or fake anymore. Because all my work is about how we cannot tell what is real or what is fake, and we don't care. The deliciousness of fantasy and living through the image is so much better.
Hello and welcome to The Big Interview. My guest today is Alison Jackson, the irreverent multi-award-winning artist, photographer and filmmaker, best known for her staged and disturbingly believable photographs of celebrity lookalikes, as you might imagine them in their most private and voyeuristic moments. Since launching her career with a graduation project that nearly got her kicked out of London's Royal College of Arts, Jackson has won numerous awards for her work exploring truth and fiction in celebrity culture. She's been featured in over 50 international exhibitions, everywhere from the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art to the National Portrait Gallery in London. And despite her frequent satire of famous politicians, she recently had a successful stint running as a politician herself. Her latest show, Truth is Dead, at the Photo Museum in Maastricht, will be running until the 15th of September and features dozens of her most iconic photographs depicting the likes of England's royal family and Elton John to Kanye West and Donald Trump. I'm Georgina Godwin and I spoke to Alison Jackson on The Big Interview. What an interesting life and what an interesting person. Many, many identities, which of course is what your work serves up to us. But I want to go back to the very beginning. Tell us about your father.
My father? Gosh. Well, I mean, he was a sort of tyrant of a man, larger than life, great fun, but, with an extremely bad temper as well, and extremely mischievous. So I think that's probably where I got my, provocative nature and mischievousness from. He was a great believer in boys, so he believed in primogeniture, and he left everything to my brother. Because I was a girl, I was, unfortunately, was left zero in his will.
And he was a very wealthy man.
He was a very wealthy man. I mean, I had a wonderful life living in this gorgeous sort of mansion in Gloucestershire and masses of horses and grooms and vintage cars and Rolls Royces, and he had his own petrol pump and it was just gorgeous life, which unfortunately I don't know anymore. My brother got left everything and I got, a fat zero. But the reason why I suppose I mentioned that is because of the inequality. It doesn't matter, I can work and make money and so on and so forth, but just the inequality of it, just because of your gender, for me is outstandingly outrageous.
Was it a very creative upbringing? What was it that led you to go to Chelsea College of Art?
Well, I thought I was supposed to, because I came from a very traditional family and I wasn't being left any money, I was supposed to marry a very rich man. And so my father and mother, they set me up with their best friend's son. And when I got to, eligible age, I started to date him, and the whole thing was that I was going to marry him, and he had a lovely big house and more of the same I've described, cars and so on. And then I thought, oh, no, I think I need to see the world, actually. So I just sort of ran away to be a receptionist in a film company. I thought, I want to be a film director. I was totally uneducated. I mean, I learned to cook with frozen peas, and got 1 O-level with that home economics. And so I ran away, became a receptionist, and then worked my way up the ladder, wrote a script, won a New Directors Award from Channel 4 and British Screen. I wrote it under the desk while I was, receptionist. At that point, they were all male film directors, no female. And so they would say, well, we'll give that script off to a man. I said, no, it's for me. Anyway, that didn't wash. So I thought, well, the only thing is to go to college and learn, get a creative base and get a few credentials under my belt. And that's what I did. I went off to the Chelsea College of Art, did a BA there, straight off to the Royal College of Art, did an MA there, and then came out with a television series. As I was leaving, the BBC offered me a television series, which was amazing.
Tell us about that.
At the Royal College of Art, I'd made this work about Princess Diana. Her house, Kensington Gardens, Kensington Palace, was outside my studio in in Royal College of Art. I overlooked her gardens. So when she died, there was a sea of flowers and there was all this hysteria that she had died. The country and the world had come to a standstill. And I thought, well, this is utterly, extraordinary phenomenon. And very few of us have had the chance to meet Princess Diana, and yet we feel we knew her intimately. Loved her or hated her, you just knew exactly where you were that moment that she died, and there was all this public outpouring. So I thought, well, it's ridiculous. We don't know if these media stories are true or not, and it's going on and on and on and on. So I felt really compelled to make some work. So I thought, I tried to make some work, and the Royal College of Art did not want me making any work, and they threatened to expel me with letters and things saying if I continued, and I was upsetting Mario Testino for some reason because I was using his photographs and cutting them up and doing awful things to them in breach of his copyright. And then the same with Cronenberg. So every work that I tried to make, they were saying, no, you can't do it. Remember, at that point, Prince Philip and Lord Snowdon were patrons and were often around in the college. But even quietly, I wasn't allowed to make that work. So I thought, well, this is ridiculous. I'm breaching copyright left, right and centre. I'll have to get my own models and get them to sign a model release. And therefore, I own everything legally. So that's what I did. I found the lookalike industry didn't exist then. So I was sort of trying to find Princess Diana lookalikes, which weirdly were popping up left, right and centre. There was sort of lots of people with that kind of eye look and the downward eye and the thing. And posed this photograph of Princess Diana, Dodie and their mixed-race child, which I was really nervous about making, thinking, something terrible is going to happen. I wasn't really thinking about it. I just knew that I wanted to make it. And then there was this beautiful poetic photograph came out, this really love story, like a Snowdon family portrait of Diana Dodie and their mixed-race child, which was really depicting an image that existed in the public mind. And I just brought it to life. And I was never allowed to show it at the Royal College of Art till the day I left. And then people started laying flowers underneath it. And I just remember the day I came out of my studio to go down to the Last Degree show, there were about 60 paparazzi wanting to take a picture of me by my photograph, because obviously it related to Princess Diana. Somebody had set that up. It certainly wasn't me. And so that was the beginning of it. So that's where, the BBC contacted me and asked if I wanted to write and direct a television series. And I said, yes, actually, because that's why I went to college in the first place. And so it worked, my unthought-out plan. And Coca-Cola offered me a whole advertising campaign on Schweppes at the same time as well. So I had sort of a bit of a double whammy. So that was a lovely launch pad from the Royal College of Art, which they are so good at. They're great at making
almost in spite of themselves, though.
Yeah, well, in a way, it was a clever strategy. They were just trying to keep me quiet until the day they could launch it properly, which, of course, I wouldn't have understood. I was a student just wanting to make my work.
Of course.
Yeah.
So, in this way, a whole career is born. And this is very much what you're known about, is these celebrity lookalikes who go out there. But really, you've got a very complex message to give us about identity and about truth.
Yes. Well, it stems back to we think we know celebrities intimately, but very few of us have actually met them at all. We only know them through this imagery, and yet we get emotionally invested in those celebrities, even though they're just objects. Because as soon as you're in a photograph or an image, you're just a mere object, which allows people to be rude and horrible about people, like you've seen with Kate recently, because you don't treat objects like people. They don't have emotions. They're just there to be talked about behind their back in front of the image. So truth starts to get very blurred. And I think we feel we own celebrities through the image. We can turn off the computer. We can swipe on an iPhone, throw a magazine in a bin. We can discard it. We can kill them off. We can moan about them on social media. We're more powerful than them. And I think it's a moment of our imaginations. Our imaginations are more truthful to us than the actual facts, because the imagery is misrepresentation anyway. It's cropped and edited by somebody. Now, anything can happen, AI, we don't know where pictures are taken, but it's the very nature of photography and imagery that is completely deceitful and manipulative, and the media exploit that and for our consumption, and we don't mind being exploited because imagery is so delicious and reality is so harsh.
And do you think that AI is really going to change things for our world, but also for how you work?
Well, the difference, I suppose, between my work and AI is that my work really does exist. It's John Smith, not Donald Trump. It's your mind that's fucked. Do you know what I mean? You're not seeing what I'm seeing. My work really is authentic. With AI, it's not authentic because it's just a digital, technical thing. And anyone can use it. It's not quite good enough yet. You can tell, even because it's a bit too perfect or a bit too bad. But it'll get good and it'll be hard to tell. So I think there will have to be some form of regulation. At the moment, the media companies are trying to regulate, aren't they? But they're not really doing a good job. I mean, there was the Kate photograph on the front cover of The Sun, and nobody could really tell. Still people don't know whether that was real or fake. The Sun say it was definitely real. And the guy who took it said it was real. Was he the real guy?
Yeah. Now, I met you at a very starry party. There was Jemima Khan, Ruby Wax, Stephen Fry, all of these big names. And you were very much at home there. You are a celebrity yourself. So how does that make you feel in terms of your work?
Well, I would say that I've never really done enough. I feel like I've only done the beginning half of my career, really. And I'd love to do an awful lot more. I'd love to make a feature film. I'm trying to make a film about Donald Trump now, which would be extremely explosive, with difficulty, because the work that I do is provocative and people are frightened of the celebrities I depict, which I have to say unnecessarily so. I've never been sued, never had a legal letter, and the celebrities themselves actually rather like it.
What I'm saying is you walk among them now.
Well, yes and no, because I can't be too... I mean, I don't particularly want to be too friendly because I've got to be able to do my work, haven't I? But I find celebrities very interesting because they work hard, they have, they're up early, they're doing it, they're achievers. And I find achievers very interesting.
So how do you go about casting your lookalikes?
Well, I have to run down the street after people and call their names saying, you, please, say you look just like... And then I say Donald Trump, and then they really get angry. It's okay if they're pretty or good looking, and then they're very flattered and stuff like that. But if they're not attractive, and a lot of them are not attractive, so,
And are they generally receptive to you?
Sometimes not. And sometimes I go up to somebody who looks like a lookalike and it turns out to be the real celebrity, which is...
That must be hilarious.
Well, it's embarrassing.
Yeah.
I remember sort of running after George Clooney in Capri, a tiny Italian island. I thought, well, that's funny, he looks like George Clooney. So I sort of ran after him because people always look different, off the screen, on screen. So I thought he was a good lookalike. I said, oh, you're a great lookalike, George. Please, will you be in my... I think I was making a film at the time. Please, will you be in my film? And he just kept on saying shove off and hand waving and telling me to F off. And I thought, well, how rude. And I was in front of a group of my friends. So I felt completely humiliated. So, but later, I just happened to be sitting on one of those beautiful balconies overlooking these rocks. And basically, he coincidentally was sitting in the next door table and came over and apologised. And I just said, oh, well, shove off yourself. And that was it. And then, it wasn't till then I realised that it was the real person.
The real one.
Yeah, but the other thing is that people go crazy over the lookalikes. They want to kiss the lookalikes, they want to fuck the lookalikes. The Donald Trump lookalike will not give me the wig back after a long day's shoot because he gets so much accolade from being Donald Trump that he just, he comes from the wrong side of the track somewhere and he just doesn't want to go back to his boring life. And all the women absolutely love him. And they get in his dressing room and I'm saying, well, you shouldn't be in his dressing room, hop out. But it's a very extraordinary... I mean, I took the Donald Trump lookalike to Trump Tower in New York, and Fifth Avenue was closed down because of the quantity of people and flash mobs running across the street to get a selfie with him. So the police came with sirens and blue lights with loudspeakers saying, "Get on the pavement, everybody." And it was just packed, so they had to shut it down. And after about 2 hours, they said there were still crowds and crowds of people. They just said, "Well, what did you want?" And I said, 10 minutes outside Trump Tower. So they said, "OK, we'll give you a blue siren, blue light escort for 10 minutes outside Trump Tower, but then you'll go on, otherwise you're back with us." And I went, "Deal." And that's what we did. And so I could have never have paid for that. I never would have got permission for that.
Who's been the hardest person to cast?
Well, I have to say Donald Trump's hard, but the wig and the orange do help. Never really found a satisfactory Rishi Sunak. Got many Keir Starmers, which is slightly also disappointing because you can't really place him either. Do you know what I mean? He's just one of those sort of grey-looking people. Looking for a King Charles, actually. So if anybody looks like King Charles, please contact me. We did a great fun thing because I took the existing King Charles lookalike and the Queen Camilla lookalike to Buckingham Palace in a prancy white horse and carriage with plumes just before coronation. And I thought we'll never get in there, so we'll just do a sort of photo call outside. But anyway, they opened the barriers for us. Then they opened the gates and let us in, and all the crowds started to rush forward to take photographs of the lookalikes in the prancy carriage, not King Charles. Suddenly the police realised they'd made a frightful mistake. Which I can't understand how they made that mistake, because I was on a moped. I had a motley crew of fake paparazzi on any old bike following alongside, and they let everybody in. I got off the bike, and they said, "Get back on your bike," which would have meant that they would have been able to arrest me on a bike. They wouldn't have been able to arrest me on foot because all tourists are on feet outside.
Right.
And so we were escorted down the mall with all the police on bicycles.
What a fabulous story.
I know.
I guess it's not just about the person looking like someone famous.
Yes.
You've got to really know a lot about them, because what makes your work great is the situations you put them in, and that we think that actually they might really be in that situation. Camilla with her fag and her gin, that kind of thing.
Well, that's right. I try and imagine what they're like at home, because I'm sure they're all having great fun, and then depict the image. I mean, the royals are there as meet and greet people. I mean, that's their job, isn't it? So what are they going to do other than continue on the meet and greet theme?
So how do you then go from being a political and a celebrity satirist, really, to being somebody in a political position yourself? Because you were a councillor for Kensington and Chelsea.
Yes. Well, first of all, I wasn't sure they'd have me. But they did. And, I was very well behaved in terms of what I did during that period. So I didn't do any imagery about Boris Johnson and Partygate and stuff like that, which I'll never forget, because I feel very sorry, because I could have made some great imagery. I found it extremely interesting, actually. And I just love the people, and I love the community. And it was just a sort of eye-opener, really, just to see how the whole mechanism works. I don't want to say I miss it too much, because I'm doing some great things now, but it's a really, really interesting period of time. I set up a charity project helping disadvantaged children learn creative and photography. And so I have teams of photographers that go out to schools and youth centres, community centres, and teach children photography. We have 20 cameras or so per session, and a mobile flash studio. And Stella McCartney provides the outfits, Nike and Puma and Trapster. And we do these amazing photographs that at the end of the year get shown. And we've done 2 shows at the Saatchi Gallery, Cadogan Hall give the awards ceremony. So it's all kind of very flash and switch. And these kind of kids can see their most they're so talented, beautiful work. And there's very little arts education. And so they get cram full of top, photographers and artists, teaching them. Gavin Turk came to help, so lots of people come and be guest teachers for these wonderful, talented children that haven't had arts education before. And then we get them mentorships and jobs. A lot of them have gone on to be photographers, University of the Arts. Short courses give them courses. So it's really very successful and really a joy and a delight to do and watch. I've had wonderful opportunities, particularly in the Royal Borough of Kensington, Chelsea, and it's just lovely to be able to try and provide that.
And of course, during all of this time, you're also putting together a book. It's called Private. It's got a picture on the front with Donald Trump with Miss Mexico beauty queen sash across his chest, and presumably Miss Mexico lying on the desk in front of her with her legs splayed. It's very clear what he's doing. And it is the most wonderful book, packed full of, here we have Prince William in the shower with nothing on, a judiciously placed towel. Elton John having a colonic.
It's the one photograph he didn't collect from me, but I think I gave it to him as a gift.
You've got Gordon Ramsay here. You've got the Queen, of course. Oh, and there's Jack Nicholson surrounded by topless women. More Donald Trump. Who's that? Simon Cowell, I think.
Yes.
Sharing spaghetti with his dog. Yeah. I mean, it's the
Yeah, he had a little dog, didn't he? That Pudsey dog ages ago. Yeah, and he's wearing a corset, I think, in there or something.
And the Queen on the loo. That's just...
That photograph's never been published in the UK.
I'm not surprised.
Well, I do find it that extraordinary because isn't it a slogan, we can't imagine the Queen on the loo? And I thought, well, I'll depict it, and there it is. Yeah. And yet it's something that people say all the time, but they wouldn't publish nobody would publish the picture. Yeah. But the book gets updated with photographs and it's due for an update. But Donald Trump's on the front cover because you can't get rid of Donald Trump. I mean,
you really can't. And of course, that brings us to your current project, which is your Trump film.
Yes, well, I hope to be making that. Everyone's a bit scared. But I think that Donald Trump probably enjoys it because he likes any kind of publicity. And I would say the film that I'm going to make is going to be, explosive and beyond the noise. So it's going to be more. And Donald Trump he's feeding all these, stories about Biden at the moment, and cocaine and having a jab in his arse and things like that. I mean, they're all very visual. Mm. So, and the golden showers, there's so many. I mean, he knows what he's doing. I mean, he's visualising a whole narrative here for everybody. And I hear his rallies are hugely entertaining. It's a free night out. Mm. And that's part of his winning value for everybody, for his half of America.
Do you think he'll win?
Well, I'm afraid I think he will win, yeah.
Yeah, I think you could be right. Will your film come out before the election?
Yes.
So
and will he win? The question is, will he win? I've done both endings.
Oh, excellent.
Or trying to do both endings.
Yeah. You've also got 2 shows on currently. You've got one in Maastricht and you've got one in Spain, I think you said. Yes. Tell us about those.
The Photography Museum in Maastricht is an amazing museum. They've got this show of 200 of my photographs, a sculpture of Donald Trump, as per the cover of my book, on having something in the Oval Office desk, and so lots of films of mine, behind the scenes of what it's like to make a lookalike, which is always hilarious, meltdowns on the wigs and screaming tantrums, identity crises, I mean, backstories, where the lookalike comes from, what he looks like before and after.
Do you have to do a lot of work? I mean, are there prosthetics and things like that involved?
Oh, my God, it's the most difficult thing I've ever done before. It's a complete nightmare. I mean, just to style the wigs, and they've got to be absolutely exact. So the hairstylist can do a bit, but often it's not just about the hairstyle, it's about the shape of the head. Luckily, I'm a trained sculptor, so I can build out the shape of the head, and then the hairstylist comes along and styles on top of that, and then I might add a few pieces to it to be absolutely exacting. Yeah, it's a nightmare.
Do people sometimes sort of believe that they are the person?
Yes, and there's a fantasy that they want to believe that they are the real person. So that's why people want to kiss and fuck a lookalike, because they would... they just don't want to know that it's a lookalike. So often I'll say, stop kissing him because he's a lookalike, not the real celebrity. and they just don't want to listen. They'll kiss them up and go further. I mean, I went into my production office in New York I was making a film out there, and there were a pair of knickers hanging from the chandelier and champagne bottles everywhere from a Richard Gere shoot I'd been doing the night before. I'd left them in the bar and the women were beginning to take their tops off, and I'd gone into the production office in the morning, same hotel, and there were all these clothes all over the place. And the Richard Gere lookalike didn't turn up till about 1 o'clock with a naughty grin on his face. Oh, my goodness. So I get complaints, I've got to be careful. I mean, I make everyone sign contracts now, no sex on set.
Outrageous.
Yeah.
So all of this sort of behind-the-scenes stuff, that's what we can see in that show?
Yes, that's right. It's very funny. It's very funny because, one, the lookalike that I find is obviously sometimes not a lookalike, but just somebody off the street. So they are absolutely not expecting to be transformed. I had a theatre show before COVID, which obviously COVID put a pay to that. But it was brilliant because I'd take people out of the audience if they look like someone famous. So just stand up, come up on stage. We'd all decide which one would get styled, have a little voting contest, style them on stage with my sort of crack team, hair, makeup, wigs. We'd have the stock wigs there. And I'd do a live photo shoot on stage to see whether I could make them look like the real deal or not. And if they were really good, we'd send them out into the public and to see if they would pass the red carpet test. Would they be seen as being the real deal?
How extraordinary.
And we would get feedback into the theatre.
And that was at the Soho Theatre?
Soho Theatre, yeah.
Will you do that again?
I'd love to, actually. I mean, it's such fun, but it is hard work. I mean, it's the styling, which is like, I don't think, just taking a portrait or directing a normal film is so much easier because actors offer so much. And, they've got their script and they contribute. With the lookalikes, they're non-actors, they really, and they don't know about image making or what side, and I make them do all these awful things like, they have to crab walk in a side position because I only want the side view, and, it's very difficult for them. By the end of it, they arrive all excited. By the end of the day, they're exhausted. Can't wait to leave. Nor can I. It's exhausting. But the results are extraordinary.
And you've got another show on in Spain?
Yes, I have. I have 2 sets of 200 photographs, a museum hop around Europe. So one's in Spain. And so it's exactly the same show. So, it's very nice. Then I go and open the show and then come back and try and get another show somewhere.
So, Donald Trump comes next. What else? What's on the Alison Jackson agenda?
I'd like to make a multi-celebrity magazine feature film type of thing about the world that we cannot tell what's real or fake anymore. Because all my work is about how we cannot tell what is real or what is fake, and we don't care. The deliciousness of fantasy and living through the image is so much better than having to deal with people and... you can't moan when you're dealing with people. We love to moan. And we can do that on the socials. We can do that through imagery. We're just drawn into it. I'd love to make a film on that basis about, how, the philosophy behind my work, really.
And how can we buy your book?
Well, you can buy my book on my website, AlisonJackson.com. It was really a catalogue for an exhibition that has now become a massive seller of books because every time I have a museum show, I sell thousands of that book. It's extraordinary.
It's wonderful. I'm so pleased to have been in conversation with the real Alison Jackson. Thank you so much for joining me here on The Big Interview on Monocle Radio. And that's it for this edition of The Big Interview, which was produced by Gunnar Grunlid and edited by Jack Dewars. From me, Georgina Godwin, thanks for listening, and until next time, goodbye.